Newberry, and that means it's Newberry College Day here on the program. It's always a pleasure to welcome to the program from time to time Dr. Maurice Scherrens, president of Newberry College. Thank you so much for coming in and being with us. We appreciate it.
Good morning, Jim. It's always a pleasure.
Great to have you here. It's never easy when you're running a small independent college, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of great news going on over at Newberry. And in no particular order this morning, we'll talk about some of the things that popped in my mind, and certainly yours too. But the first thing I want to mention is, and sometimes the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees, people forget what an impact Newberry College is on the economy. And a recent study shows that just in the Midlands alone, and I might add beyond, it's a $98 million economic impact.
Yeah, Jimmy, we had that study done in 2022, and it's I think to a lot of people they underestimate the impact of Newberry College, the hospital, Newberry Opera House, on the community, and ours was independently identified as a $98 million economic impact to the region, and a lot of it has to do with we're a $35 million operation. First of all, with over 225 employees, our students, our staff, our faculty spend a lot of their money in Newberry and in the region. And then on top of that, Jimmy, we've got two multi-million-dollar capital projects going on, and that brings in another influx of employees and a lot more money spent. One of the projects, the stadium is $6.5 million. The nursing building is $4.5 million. So that's just a lot of money coming into Newberry County and the surrounding area, and I'll always say this, the college is what makes the big difference in Newberry. No doubt. And it's exciting, too. We're going to talk about some of those projects in a minute. I know you wouldn't bring this up, but I'm going to. Dr. Scherrens was the recipient of the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, the Distinguished James T. Rogers Leadership Award. What's impressive to me about that is, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but not too terribly many years ago, they wouldn't even talk to us. And now they're giving you an award. So that tells me a lot. Well, it was a tough time for the college in that 2010, 2012 era, and probably before that. But the college just, had a tough time. A lot of organizations have a tough time. That organization, which is our reaffirmation organization, put the college on warning and then probation, and so as you heard this past Friday at the board meeting, it was a turnaround project, and maybe the turnaround lasts forever, but sometime over these past 10 or 11 years, that turnaround has also become a transformation, right. and that's what I feel best about for the college, because it's achieved financial stability, which was the concern of SACS back in 2010, 2011, 12. And now we've gained, as you know, financial strength. So we've cleared the bar for stability, which is the first bar, and now we're just looking for financial strength.
Right, and you're part of that group too now.
Correct.
Well. Yeah, so
Correct.
That really a great turnaround there, and congratulations on that award.
Thank you.
Well, let's go back to the fall graduation. 77 graduates, 75 of those undergraduate degrees and 2 graduate degrees.
That's been a huge step for us, Jimmy. As you know, we had our first graduate degree approved in 2020, had our first graduates in 2022. We had some graduate in August of 22. Then, as you mentioned, we had a couple more graduate in December. And as good as it feels to have a first graduate program, the college's board this past Friday approved our second graduate program. So beginning, and we'll start marketing it right away, but beginning in the fall of 23, students will be able to earn a Master's of Science in Sports Management and Leadership. And I think, for those that know Newberry College, a good portion of our students are student athletes, and many of them stay for a fifth year because many are redshirted as freshmen. Well, what a great thing to be able to walk away from a college after 5 years, not with just an undergraduate degree, but an undergraduate degree and a master's degree, and all of a sudden that 5 years sounds like that was a really good investment.
Indeed. And just in the fall graduation alone, 7 states were represented in 4 countries, and I imagine if you went back to the spring where you had a huge group graduate then, that the numbers would be even bigger.
We're typically in the 15 to 20 other countries, which always makes you feel good. It makes the classroom experience so much better for our students. We still run about 85% South Carolinian, but every year we're adding more out-of-state students. We're adding more international students, and I think it really enhances the classroom experience for some students who have never really been with students other than South Carolinians.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and that has changed over the years tremendously, the number of, or the influx of international students, and even students from beyond where they used to come from in this very country.
No, absolutely, and some of the sports that we've added, I think we've got some of the best coaches, and they're always out there recruiting the best student athletes possible, and we recruit obviously heavily in South Carolina, but as we've added sports over the years, Jimmy, we've opened up new areas of the country and new areas of the world in terms of getting students. You look at our women's tennis program, we probably have 7 different countries identified. Men's golf, women's golf, very, very similar. Men's tennis, the same way. When we added lacrosse, all of a sudden we opened up the Mid-Atlantic region, so all of a sudden now we're in New Jersey, we're in Maryland, we're in Virginia, heavily recruiting. And then men's lacrosse, and I know you're familiar with the program, we've got a coach with great connections in Canada, and he just gets some of the best lacrosse players out of Canada.
Yeah.
So we're all over the world.
You mentioned women's tennis. The president of the student body is a member of that team, and I'm so thankful that I got to know a young lady like Ish Singh. She's just an amazing person.
She's amazing in so many different ways, like you said, Jimmy. I think she's the epitome of what we want a Newberry College student to be. She may have come here to play tennis, but she immediately got engaged in many, many different activities, organizations. As you mentioned, she got into student government. Now she's the president of the student body. And I was teasing her a few weeks ago. I said, "Ish, you got to be so proud that you're the president." And she said, "I've only got one objective. I want to be the first one ever to do it 2 years in a row," because she's a junior.
Right.
And you talk to the faculty that love her also, and all they can say about Ish is it's not possible to put more things into a day than Ish does. So what we have to worry about is that she get burned out by doing so many different things. But she's always out there, Jimmy, and that's what we want to get out of our students.
Well, with all due respect to anybody who might want to run again, she deserves a second term. So
Exactly.
I want to endorse her right now. Well, speaking of students, the students are always heavily involved in the community. And I know recently on Election Day, of course, you can't, the NCAA says you can't play a sport then. So some of our student athletes and other students were out working with the poll workers, making sure they were doing okay. And then on MLK Day, there was a big presence of Newberry students as well, both in the parade and at the event, and then afterwards on the day on, not a day off.
Right. I think it's really become just a part of who they are. Every coach has a community service, an engagement expectation of their student athletes. Also, bringing in Sean Johnson as the athletic director, it's important to him. He makes it clear how important it is that student athletes are well rounded. They attended an event at the Newberry Opera House that was done by a Ukraine a group. They enjoyed that. Martin Luther King Day was a full day for many of the student athletes, just participating in different activities throughout the day. But I think what that does, Jimmy, is I think it makes them better student athletes. Anything can be done to the point where it becomes harmful because you've lost all balance in your life. And I think what our coaches do and what Sean does is just make sure that they have balance in their lives. Some of them could be in fraternities. Some of them, like Ish, could be in student clubs and organizations. but all of them know that they owe the fact that they're playing to somebody else and to some group, and they're trying to pay it back to the community.
Right. I was mentioning that I went to the event on Sunday at Wiles Chapel. It was two different events. I went to the one at noon. The place was packed with student athletes, and former student athlete Brandon Bostic was there to tell his story. And from the highs of playing for the Green Bay Packers to the lows that happened after that, and he's come back through that. And I was thinking the same thing on Sunday night when I was watching the Cincinnati game, and that gentleman, got flagged for a foul, and it led to a field goal, but well attended. But that's the kind of thing. Brandon can come and tell his story, and he did a marvelous job.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about, excuse me, some of our alumni. When they come back, Jimmy, they can connect to our students better than you can connect, or I can connect, or Sean Johnson, because they were there. They were there as students. They then reached the pinnacle of their sport, and they were able to say it's not all highs. It's highs and lows, and I think our students today need so much help in terms of mental health, in terms of how do you deal with the obstacles, the challenges, the things that don't go well, because it's easy just to, find that boulder or that rock in the road, and all of a sudden you just give up. And what Brandon's all about, and the story, is one of recovery and then persistence. And my guess is he still struggles with it because, professional football fans never let go of some things. Yeah. So he's got to deal with it every day.
Yeah, and at the very beginning of his presentation, which was a timeline of events, it shows a picture of him with his head down in his uniform, and he said, until this play happened, I didn't know anything about mental health.
Right.
So, and apparently, I'm sure the young man from Cincinnati may be facing the same situation now. But another thing that he did that impresses me, and this happens more often than not, he thanked those at Newberry College for sticking with him and getting him to the finish line as far as his degree was concerned, and in particular, Coach Knight and John Lassane and a few other people. So,
yeah, I think what's special about Newberry College, and I know after going in my 11th year here that I'm biased, but that's what we do. That it's not going to happen at a large state school, but he becomes part of the family, and our students become part of the family for 4 or 5 years. So we feel like we've got an obligation, and it's part of our responsibility. Once we've admitted them, even that first weekend, we say, when we have the candlelight ceremony and everybody lights their candle, we say, your candle's going to get blown out at some point during these 4 years, and you're going to have to lean on somebody else, and vice versa. And that's sort of the theory that we have, Jimmy, is nobody's going to get through these 4 years on a constant high. So you're going to need to lean on somebody, and for those that get close to the finish line, we're going to reach out and figure out a way to get them to the finish line.
And that's not lip service. That's the truth.
It's what we do.
That's the truth. All right, well, let's switch back to construction. A lot of construction going on, and it's for those of us who are not in the construction industry, it's beginning to make significant progress because you can actually see it going up. And that big old crane over there putting up the roof trusses on top of the football stadium building is amazing.
It's the interesting thing about construction is everybody gets excited, and then you go into site development, and everybody's losing excitement, and then you begin underground construction, and people are losing excitement, and then you go vertical.
Right.
And once you go vertical, everybody gets jacked up, and both the projects are on schedule, nursing and health science as well as the stadium, which we call Phase 2, and they both should be completed in June, July. So we're excited about it. And we can't wait to have our opening football game there and show off the stadium. And we're going to have a grand opening of the nursing and health science building. It'll probably be, Jimmy, right around the first day of classes in the fall. And what Lori Ann Summers and I are thinking, along with Jerry Alewine, is that we're going to make it a public grand opening, but the first group that's going to walk in are the student nurses.
And they should.
With their uniform, because they've waited a long time for this facility, and I want to send a shout out to the hospital. And I know Bruce Baldwin is moving on from the hospital now, but they were a very important partner to us, and they're because of the hospital, we could add a health clinic, right. And that's going to be an important part.
And we would be remiss, or I would be remiss, if I didn't give you a chance to also mention Gordon and Ann Darby.
Oh my gosh, they just, Sandy and I have said several times, you meet a lot of people that have the capacity to give, but we've never met two people more benevolent, more generous than Gordon and Ann Darby, and they just, Jimmie. Sometimes in fundraising, you make the trip, knock on the door, you got to make an ask, and you just hate everything about it, because who wants to make an ask? Gordon and Ann made it easy. They just, over the years, they've given significantly to the college, and we couldn't be any more proud than to name the Nursing and Health Science Complex after the Darby family, and I have no doubt that our students, in very short order, will drop all of that name and just call it the Darby.
The Darby. Well, Lord knows you've made a few visits, and so that one was probably the easiest of them all.
It was.
On back to the football stadium building, and you were here when those guys were here from the group that's going to Founders Federal Credit Union.
Right.
It's going to be the Founders Federal Credit Union complex, I guess.
Fieldhouse,
Fieldhouse, right.
Yep.
And they've made a huge impact on this, and they're even on the campus, and that's exciting.
It's really exciting, and it just goes to show you that it truly takes a village, Jimmie. And Founders Federal, we were so fortunate that the leadership of Founders Federal had a strong connection, strong relationship with a couple of our football coaches over the years. I mean, it goes back probably 30, 40, 50 years.
Exactly.
And that was the relationship. It was, did they, as a credit union, want to expand into Newberry? Sure. But what they really wanted to do was they wanted to support the athletic program. And, that gift, which is over 7 years, is just, it really makes Phase 2 possible and gives us some funding towards Phase 3, which we're excited about. And I was with them, with the coaches and the athletic director and our advancement people before they had made the gift. And it is one of those settings again, Jimmie, where as they listened and they talked and listened to what our coaches had to say, you knew before making the ask that they want to be a part of this. And I would just say this in general. There is really special things going on at Newberry College, and more people want to be a part of it, and that's what's going to take us to the next level.
Right. All right, we're going to take a break in just a minute, but I did want to mention the dorm. It will be built, but the wheels of government turn a little slowly sometimes. That's the bottom line on that one, I guess.
You're right, Jimmie.
Okay, so it's going to take place. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. Stay tuned. We're going to check in on birthdays and anniversaries here, brought to you each day on this program by Franklin Summer Insurance. All right, I want to cover a couple of other topics before we close out this morning. First of all, we're still ranked in the U.S. News & World Report's college ranking, still showing Newberry among the leaders in the Southeast and beyond, so I know you're proud of that.
We are proud of it, Jimmie. We took that from in 2011, we were number 43, and then it was number 37. So the school was bouncing around the 40s 10 years ago. As you know, we've climbed the rankings. For the last 2 years now, we've been ranked number 11, and I know the board's like, can't we get into the top 10? And so I think we got a shot. I mean, all the vital signs of the school are good, so we have a chance to be in the top 10 when they come out in September or October.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, and hopefully that will happen. We mentioned Founders Federal Credit Union already, and the partnership between the hospital and the college. Those were notes that I had made as well. I want to go back to the enrollment from the fall, over 1,300, 1,250 full-time, I guess it was.
Yes.
And you're ahead of that so far this year, it looks like, hopefully.
Gosh, Jimmie, we and it's early, so we keep telling ourselves that it's early, and we've got to keep the pedal to the metal. But as of the end of January, in the previous year, by the way, was a record-breaking year, the first time we've ever brought in 500 incoming students. But Sandy Scherrens, my wife, and Barb Joyner and their staff are doing an incredible job, did a great job last year. This year, as of January 31st, we are 125% higher on deposits for incoming students than we were a year ago. So it's a scary good number, and I know that the admissions staff and our retention people, because it's a combination, you got to be able to recruit them, you got to be able to keep them. But we think we have a chance for another record-breaking year, and I think it's great for everybody. Our dean of students, who's responsible for on-campus housing, is a little worried. Are we going to have enough beds? But we'll figure that out. But I just think, and I guess I want to go back. I think the strategies in admissions now are better than ever before. Are contacting students and families stronger than ever before. But I just think the word's getting out,
right,
that there's good things going on at the college. There's a reason to come to Newberry College, and you can get a private school education at a very, very affordable rate.
And for those of us who live in this community, the best thing we can do is continue to preach that gospel, if you will.
Oh my gosh, there's no better word than having people that just are neutral, objective, and are seeing what's happening, say really positive things. We get such a rebound after homecoming from when people come that haven't been on campus, for years, 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 years, and they see what's going on. They're the ones that can move and shake in terms of influencing people.
Well, as pointed out last Friday, you got a man who's now chairman of the board who hadn't been on campus in 40 years, and boy, once he got hooked, did he get involved big time.
Yeah, that was, Rob Best is the chairman of the board, and I remember going down to, and visiting with him, and that was one of the first things he said was, I really feel bad. I've fallen away from the college for no good reason at all, other than life. Life happens.
Right.
And Frank Snyder, another one of our board members, was the one that said, give Rob a call. And it didn't take much talking. And as you know, he became a board member, and then everybody saw how strong he was. And then now he's become chairman of the board. And you probably are somewhat embarrassed. We couldn't have a better board. Our board of trustees, which is our governing body, just could not possibly be stronger. We added 3 people this past Friday, and they're going to give us more strength, more diversity, and I'm really proud of I'm proud of the board.
Absolutely. Okay, so you mentioned, let's talk about a couple of personnel changes. Barry McClanahan was one you referenced just a minute ago. He's doing a great job. He's the new dean of students.
He is. We got him from Shippensburg. He had a career at Shippensburg. Figured it was time for him to retire and move on. And like so many people, he knew he was going to retire from there, but wasn't going to retire. And he just, the more the college, I'm sure it's the same for all organizations, the more that you can bring people that have high energy and just a breadth of experience like he does, that's what you need. It's like sometimes you can have too many people that their only experience is at one school, and they begin to think that they really know what's going on in terms of the changes in higher education. And the beauty is to bring in some fresh eyes, and he's a set of fresh eyes.
Right. Another new member of the college family is Sean Johnson, our new athletics director, and what a great job he's done so far.
Yeah, we got him from Jamestown in North Dakota. He always jokes about, he did it again yesterday at our staff meeting. He'll come in and say, what's the temperature in Jamestown? And it's usually like 4 degrees below zero or something. And but I tell you what, and I say this about both of these gentlemen, they don't only bring experience, they bring a level of integrity and ethical decision making that is what I want us surrounded by in terms of the leadership of the college, because in good times and bad times, what's going to get you through is, do you have a core set of values, and that's how you're going to make decisions. And they're both great assets.
While we're on the subject of athletics, let's go ahead and talk about that. You mentioned earlier, and I think this is also very, very true. I don't know that you could go on any college campus, especially the size of a small college like Newberry, and find as a whole a better group of coaches anywhere.
I don't know of any place. I don't know of any place. We're the smallest school in this conference. We've got some of the oldest facilities in the conference. We're renovating and we're building and we're getting better. But we've got coaches who their attitude is, I get it. I see what the resources are. I see what the facilities are, and I know I can be successful here. And you're going to see us winning more, and we're more competitive. And Sean and I have had this conversation, and that's great. I think we're competitive in all of our sports. But the step after being competitive is winning, and you're going to see us winning more. You're going to see more teams winning SAC championships. There's no reason why we can't win 3 or 4 championships out of 20-some sports every year. And I think, and he won't be pleased with me for saying this, but we got the right coach to have a back-to-back SAC championship string of 3 years in Coach Knight and his staff.
No question.
Yeah, and I think I think about, you mentioned Cedia's birthday today. Great coaches in softball, baseball. Gosh, we've got an outstanding coach in lacrosse. Field hockey is doing unbelievable. Field hockey was 0-14 like 6 years ago, and now they've got consecutive winning seasons. And just Hannah Dave's doing a great job. I truly don't know, Jimmy, to your point, of a stronger coaching staff that, quote unquote, gets it. It's so much more than just winning and losing, and that's what you mentioned before in terms of community service.
Right.
And if people don't know this, because I was blown away by it, we had 85 student athletes who didn't just get an honor roll, who had a 4.0 grade point average this past fall. And
one of the football players he got a huge award.
Well, he got the South Atlantic Conference Award of the year. So
right.
Really good stuff going on in athletics.
No doubt. So back-to-back championships for Coach Knight and the Wolves. That was so exciting. Of course, we know about the disappointment of not getting into the playoffs. We'll leave it at that because there's nothing we can do about it. But the other thing that raised its head this year is, who would have thunk it that, all of a sudden you've got this wonderful running back, and here comes the transfer portal. You wouldn't expect it to affect a Division II school as much as the Division I, but this young guy goes to South Carolina, and he was a Harlan Hill finalist.
Yeah, Jimmy, I've got mixed emotions from an institutional standpoint. I don't have mixed emotions from an individual standpoint. I think if you're a young student athlete and get the opportunity to play, to be a member, first of all, and possibly play for a Southeast Conference team, it's a
no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Right. What you hate to see is a student athlete like Mario, who is a Harlan Hill finalist, because that also is a way to the NFL. And we have just enough of those examples at Newberry that all he was going to do was climb the rankings in terms of Harlan Hill. He was going to break every record that Newberry College had.
Right.
But I think you're going to see it more and more. Sean and I actually joked about it during the year that I didn't think it was going to be a Division I team, but I thought somebody else was just going to offer him a better package and try to steal him. But you talk to Coach Knight, and it's like, he hates losing Mario, but it's like, hey, we just regroup, recover, and move on, and wish Mario the best. But we got a coach that's just going to rebuild.
Yeah, and somebody else will step up.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, we thank you for being here. Anything else you wanted to mention that I didn't have on my list?
Well, the only thing I'd say real quick, Jimmy, and this is a big shout out and thank you to the faculty. One of the primary reasons why we're growing is we're adding academic programs. And for a college like Newberry to be adding programs like neuroscience, nutrition, possibly cybersecurity, that might be a year or two away, project management, data analytics. These are the kind of fields that small colleges often can't offer, but our faculty have figured out ways on our own and with a partnership with RISE to really be offering programs that you wouldn't expect at a small college. So, gosh, what a win-win. You still have the small college experience, and you're offering majors that you would expect only a large school to offer. So I just think that's the transformation that's going on.
And in that case, you get potentially some of your own professors as well as others.
Teaching the course.
Right.
Yep. And they can be teaching the course to students across the country. And I know I'm out of time, but the student union is our number one priority in terms of a capital project, and I hope that we can begin that sometime in the near future.
Well, and you're not out of time necessarily. I just thought we were out of subject, but you brought up something I did want to cover, and I forgot to, and that is that you're about to finish up a strategic plan. And this strategic plan certainly is one that's not going to take place all at one time, but if you look down the road, what a major change it would be to the campus.
Yeah, it's we're in the last phases of a master plan that ties in, like Jimmie says, to the strategic plan that we put together. The master planners use that as the basis for developing a master plan. That's going to be presented to the board in late April. And I hope, Jimmie, that what the community will do is come out and listen to our presentations, because after the board approves the master plan, our plan is to share that with the Newberry community, our alumni, and hopefully have 2 or 3 listening sessions where people because it's exciting.
Really?
It's meant to be 3 to 5 years. It's not way out there, but next 3 to 5 years.
It is an amazing group of possibilities, if you will.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Dr. Maurice Scherrens, as always, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot, Jimmie.